All right, spawning in the bottom left corner on Deadwing, we have the Samsung Galaxy Red Zerg player, Solar.
Never right. As the blue Protoss, it's Lilbow.
All right, so we talked about this briefly. I'm not loving the all-ins out of Lilbow. They're definitely not paying him compliments to what we know he's capable of. But again, and this isn't something that casters just bring up. We've interviewed players. We heard TLO talk a little bit about this yesterday. When you play on the North American server, it's like a 50-50 chance you get the US West or the US East servers. You might be lagging, you might not. It really depends on a bit of a dice roll, so to speak. But it's still better than Korea to Europe or Europe to Korea. What I do find interesting, though, for Solar is this is a guy who has regularly attended European Cups online. He doesn't really care about the latency. None of that seems to have ever bothered him. So, I mean, I definitely can see maybe if Lilbow's feeling a bit of latency moving the probes around, it influences that all-in style. And I wouldn't disagree with it for that point, but again, it's like I know the potential of what Lilbow has, and I've definitely seen better macro-oriented games out of him.
Yeah. Apparently, Rifkin had an awakening when we were playing twos, and that lag actually affects your play.
We both
He didn't
did.
believe it before that. He didn't believe it.
No, we both believed it. We just couldn't empathize with it in that same way. So we were playing 2v2s on the Korean server. By the way, Zombie Up and I basically grandmasters here in North America now, as we ranked silver on Korea. So bow down to us, plebeians.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, don't watch the VOD of that, because what you're gonna do is see us fighting quite a bit. We tried Archon mode afterwards. It was a lot of fun until someone abandoned me. But I'm not gonna name names.
You abandoned me in first. In other, I don't know.
Okay, actually, you know what? Segueing off of that, the reference I'm making here is we tried to can rush and went poorly. I'm actually a little bit shocked we haven't seen Lilbow try this, though, because Solar for 2 games now has gone 3 hatch before pool. It's a little bit harder to scout that and read that, I guess, because he is coming with a Zealot Stalker poke rather than the immediate probe rush across the map. But actually, I think it's... Yeah, this map, last map that they did, hatchery pool, third base. So, I mean, he's kind of just been exponentially getting greedier as time goes on.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. You know, you realize more and more that your opponent is a gateway player. Go for more greedy builds. So, I mean, the one thing that they can usually do, rather than just like opening the forge, obviously, is that attack that Lilbow did. You know, the one gas, very quick 4-gate, and even that did not look as impressive as I usually think of like one gas 4-gate. I think of that attacking like really hard and really fast, and that was like kind of slow and not that hard either. Like Solar actually cleaned it up with nothing but lings, which is pretty, you know, pretty good.
Yep.
I know what you're thinking.
I know, I'm 4 years old at
12
heart. I'm sorry, everybody. Not even 12 years old. 12 years old would probably be more mature than I am, if we're going to be completely honest. But Lilbow Scout's nothing. And what I kind of don't like is that he didn't even try to go for the scout with the probe to see if it was a third base or not. This kind of tells me that he came into the game with a plan, really depending on what he would have scouted out immediately. Now that plan to me, kind of in the back of my mind, echoes all in again. But we actually don't have the chrono boost going into the warp gate. Actually went into the sentries this time. A little bit curious.
Well, it could still be an all-in, just, you know, later. I mean, 3-base blank can still be called an all-in, so, you know.
Well, I mean, the thing I'm looking at more for this is the earlier the sentries are out, the more energy he has. So maybe he's banking on having 1 or 2 extra force fields for the 4-gate, for the 7-gate, whatever the follow-up ends up being.
Yeah. I certainly would, I wouldn't say no to expecting it, but I would say no to actually doing it. I would just be like, Lilbow, I know you have other all-ins, too. We saw him use, like, Blink Stalker all-ins. I mean, there's a couple of, like, there's, like, the Stargate all-in where you kind of fake out the Phoenixes. Like, there's a bunch of different ways that says, like, I'm doing something normal, but then you do an all-in.
That's something we didn't really touch base on, though, the Blink Stalkers. So, classically speaking, if you guys watch PvZ, no matter whether it's Koreans or Europeans, you tune in halfway through a match, chances are it's massive Blink Stalkers with +2 upgrades. Again, the thing that's making me think he's probably staying away from that strategy is he is feeling a bit of lag. He doesn't want to have to micro-blink Stalkers through any amount of latency. I'm not making excuses for him, I'm just trying to understand his reasoning not. Because again, as Zombie stated, even in recent days in this particular tournament, we've seen him definitely pull out different tactics and really cool moves. I mean, seriously, even with all the massive Koreans and the big names we had in our last 2 groups, Lilbow probably has some of the more creative and fun matches in the group stages to watch.
Yeah. Well, things are already different. All of the gases were taken, and Solar, well, so at least still the 3rd gas. I didn't actually see the 4th one. But there's a Forge also. I mean, it is a different build. We'll see where it actually goes into. It's 3 gateways right now. He could have pressured, I suppose, or like, yeah, but it probably would not have been worth it. Looks like he's just gonna go ahead and expand. It is Dead Wing, so if you're gonna go for a macro build, now would be the time.
But I mean, look how much Solar's gotten away with while this has been going on. Up to 60 drones. He's taking every single gas. There's been no necessity to pump any units whatsoever. So every drone in this game, save 1 Zergling, 2 Zerglings, and I mean, it's just been drone, drone, drone. And this is kind of Zerg heaven.
Yeah, he's already up to, you know, well, not quite perfect, but like, if you consider like how low he's been on the past few games, because he has to deal with all lanes, he's been around like 50, I think. 69, like 71 is gonna look really, really good. And he's actually going up to a Spire. It looks like it was not quite scouted.
Oh, he threw that down after the Phoenix passed by? Let's check that out.
Looks like it.
Yeah, right here on the third.
Yeah, either that or just barely didn't see the Spire, even if it was already down. But that's gonna be a problem for Lilbow, because you know he doesn't scout anything else. He doesn't scout a Hydra's Den, and you know the lack of information is information. Not really in this case. You definitely want to see what tech the hell are you going.
Well, the thing I'm thinking about for this is what he has actually isn't terrible to transition into, say, anti-mutalists with. If nothing else, we've certainly seen a lot of players recently, and Parting comes to mind right away, who've been really heavily investing in cannons, and I don't mean 3, but I'm talking like 5 or 6. And if there's one surefire to shut mutalists down, it's having quite a few cannons peppering your base.
Sure. I never feel very confident for the Protoss player when they only have Blink Stalkers to deal with mutas. Even if they get up to Archons, it's like the best way to deal with it is Phoenixes. Because what happens with Blink Stalkers is that eventually you just go like throw up your hands, say F it, and you're gonna attack. And the base trade almost always favors the person who goes mutas. And Solar's not under any pressure either. It's not like he has like 10 mutas about to pop out as Lilbow does his +2 Blink Stalker all in. No, he's gonna have a lot of time actually to get like a lot of mutas.
And I think this goes back again to the point that there was no threat of pressure. There was not the Mothership Core, Zealot Stalker Poke. There was no probe faking anything out. I mean, there was nothing that made Solar make anything other than 1 set of Zerglings in the early game. And it's crazy to consider that he got away with that. That's, I'd say, borderline equivalent to Terran just getting away with 3 CC. I mean, it's something that's just going to sell him so far forward here in the mid game. And while the Mutals are going to be the opener rather than the transition, I mean, there are Blink Stalkers, and for a time he can deal with this. But sentries are going to start getting picked off. Openings will be found, and I mean, there's not exactly the cannons I had described earlier coming down to defend this. In fact, I think, as you said, he probably still has no idea this is coming. In fact, yeah, may have seen the Spire at some point, but...
Well, he's in position here. I guess he knows the mutas are waiting there. But, you know, Lilbow, Blink is almost done, +2 is almost done. He's going to have a lot more gateways. I mean, yeah, he's going to go with 8 gateways, actually fine for 3 base production. I like taking out the rocks here. He does have some units, obviously, so counterattacks are still good all over the place.
Yeah, even if he doesn't actually get to use this right now, just opening that other doorway, that's a big threat. It's a big scare, but Mutals flock into a Guardian Shield Sentry Stalker army, so a bit awkward. Blink is nearing completion.
Yeah. But I think if Lilbow ever blinks out to deal with the mutas, Lings and Roaches swamp him, no problem.
Yeah, absolutely has to stay in base. There's no question about that.
Well, it's
nice
kind of been worth it.
Well, Lings do find the opening here on the left as the Stalkers blink to the right. Sentries are a little bit slow to come back, and now he's going to go for that doorway. Solar finds Lilbow, just not able to keep up with his moves all over the place here. Goes towards the main, goes towards the natural base. Mutas are coming in. There's a couple of cannons up. That's going to help a lot, actually. A couple of mutas are getting really low. Maybe a blink could execute 1 or 2, but looks like he's finally dealt with the Lings at this point. This should have been way scarier, but with 1,500 minerals in the bank, pulling the probes back out of this, he's only lost 4 through this attack. A great hold out of Lilbow.
That is a lot of money in the bank. I guess he didn't have those gateways until just now, so hopefully he'll be able to use that. And he will have a big Stalker ball.
I'm really impressed that defended so well. I mean, he definitely had the forces to defend it. That wasn't a question at all. But the fact that he took so little losses is what really catches me off guard. Because Lings flooded through the natural. We saw some things dart towards the main. The third base looked like it was open and prime picking, but Lilbow holding on here really nicely and going for that Blink Stalker comfort zone that we see so many Protoss players in nowadays.
Yeah. But Solar's in his own comfort zone. He's on 5 bases, 85 drones. He's starting to get upgrades as well. Lilbow, not exactly throwing up his hands. It really hasn't been that much harassment, but he is doing to go ahead and attack. Now would be a perfect time for Solar to initiate the base trade.
Yeah, he could actually just run past the Blink Stalkers. Lings are going to chew down those buildings pretty quickly, but I feel for Lilbow, he's also got a very powerful army coming across the map. Sad thing is, there's no recall capability, so if he is going to go full bore, he's got to get some probes out. He's got to get some base trade potential out there. He's got even army supply. His upgrades look all right. Force field's coming down, and some cannons trying to be built here. There's a lot of cannons, again, like we talked about earlier, finally coming into play. Something we've seen a lot more frequently, but probes are dying, no question about it. Recognizing there's nothing at home, Solar is now going to have his forces split in two as Lilbow divides his stalkers up.
Solar never really got to that point where he had like 1,000, 2,000 minerals in the bank, so no mass spine crawler defense certainly helped Lilbow.
Muta's being picked off here by the cannons as well. I mean, it's who really cares about the Zerglings? At this point, it's just the stalkers that really matter the most, but the argument's going to be made that Lilbow has to hold the main. He's got no probes on the map. He can't fully base trade this out. He's going to base race it, that's for sure, but can he base trade it? I mean, he's holding quite nicely so far. Stalkers, Guardian Shields, going to be necessary. Try to focus down the Mutalisks. The cannons, again, adding so much more damage to this fight. Mutalisks are getting popped off, but I think Lilbow's got this. That army supply is way too much.
I'm very surprised he hasn't killed that Spire. If he killed the Spire, definitely be out and done with, but I agree with you. I think Lilbow is just going to hold on to at least his third, maybe even the main as well.
Unless Solar runs something across the map that forces Lilbow to come all the way back home, I mean, Lilbow's going to absolutely destroy everything here to me. Blings coming out a couple at a time, not a problem. Mutalisk getting sniped off, can't even escape. 59-60, I mean, everybody's just losing all the workers. Lilbow has nothing left. He can't build another probe. He has no money left in this game, and thus no more production. So we're going to swap over to the units tab at this point, guys.
That might...
Yo,
okay, there's one way.
Cool too. He's still got 6 freaking sentries after all, with full energy.
Oh, that's a good point. Solar will not win a straight-up engagement, which sometimes happens.
No,
sometimes they keep on making mutas until, mutas plus the Glaive Worm actually wins out against a bunch of Bling Stalkers. Not gonna happen this game. Inspire did eventually die, too.
He's gotta finish off that extractor.
Nah, bro.
I don't think it's gonna cost anything. I still think Lilbow's got this. Solar doesn't have the money to exactly throw down 7 spine crawlers over here. He doesn't have the drone count to do much either. He's dancing around with the Mutalisks, but as long as Lilbow doesn't go AFK, he just holds position around the Nexus. Yeah. I think he's good.
Solar would have to have amazing luck and skill, really, to be able to kill all of the buildings that Lilbow has. That's his only choice, is to kill all the buildings, which is even feasible because there's only 15 minerals. Like, if he had a probe, no, Lilbow definitely wins. He starts rebuilding his base.
Zealots, please, go.
Alright, he's not even gonna try,
good game.
Draw out that game that much. Just went for the Blink Stalkers.
Fantastic series, though. We're gonna go to the Ace match. The Foreigner brings the punch.